Good evening. I'm Gregory Lewis, counsel to Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso. This Uniform Land Use Review Procedure public hearing is being conducted from the Brooklyn Borough Hall courtroom. On the agenda is one application. Please note that this hearing is being recorded to comply with the Open Meetings Law. The video will be posted on the Brooklyn Borough Presidents YouTube channel. Following the applicant's presentation and a question and answer session from me, members of the public who are in attendance tonight will have the opportunity to testify on the application. All comments are limited to 2 minutes. Members of the public may also submit comments to askReynoso@brooklynbp.nyc.gov for the Borough President's consideration until Friday, June 16th, 2023 to do so. I can ask the Director of Land Use, Mr. John Douglas, to please call the first item, and let's begin.
Calendar item number 1, 280 Bergen Street Parking Special Permit, C230162 ZSK, a private application submitted by B&W 3 Regen LLC, requesting a special permit pursuant to section 74533 of the zoning resolution to allow the waiver of the number of required accessory off-street parking spaces for dwelling units in a development within the transit zone. That includes at least 20% of all residential floor area as income-restricted housing units in connection with a proposed mixed-use development on property located at 280 Bergen Street, block 388, lots 19, 42, and 51, in R7A and R7D C24 districts in the Borough of Brooklyn and Community District 2. Community Board 2 voted to approve this item on May 10th, 2023.
This moment, ask the applicant's representative to please step up to the podium. And after doing so, to please state your name and present this application.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Lewis, Mr. Douglas. Dan Eggers, land use attorney at Greenberg Charg, representing the applicant. And it's been a while since I've been in this room. Let me see if I remember how to work the technology. There we go. So, as requested by Community Board 2 and Councilmember Ressler, this is an application, as John stated, by an affiliate of the ULURP Corporation for a special permit pursuant to section 74533 of the zoning resolution to waive the residential parking requirements of ZR 2523 in proposed mixed-use developments on a portion of the block bounded by Nevin Street, 3rd Avenue, Bergen Street, and Wyckoff Street in Borum Hill. As you know, this was subject of a rezoning that was approved last year that rezoned the development site's mid-block from M12 to R7A. The block's 3rd Avenue frontage was rezoned in a separate application last year from M12 to R7D C24. When we sought the rezoning, Community Board 2 and Councilmember Ressler expressed concern that given the site's proximity to mass transit, parking should not be required in the proposed development, and we originally proposed 125 spaces. In response to this concern, we applied for this special permit to waive the development's parking requirement, which is why we're before you again tonight. Much of what I'm going to show you I presented to your office last year, but to refresh your recollection, this shows our development site and the site of the 3rd Avenue rezoning, which is the gas station is the 3rd Avenue rezoning site. The lots in yellow are the lots owned by ULURP, which total 50,700 square feet and are improved with the 1- and 2-story buildings I showed you in that photo. ULURP also leases 2 parcels from the city shown in pink, which are controlled by HPD pursuant to a 1973 lease, which are about 20,000 square feet. These parcels are used for accessory parking. ULURP's lease runs through 2063, but as part of the approval of the rezoning application, ULURP agreed to surrender its lease as of June 30th, 2024. This would facilitate affordable housing proposals by HPD on those lots. Here are more project area photographs, the same one I just showed you. This looks along Bergen Street. Development site is on the left. Here we have images of the development site's frontage on Wyckoff. This is the city-owned lot looking from Nevins at Wyckoff. And once more, the tax map to orient us again. As mentioned, the approved rezoning eliminated the remainder of the M12 district on the block and mapped an R7A district with MIH in its place. A portion of the project is in the R7D C24 district that was mapped as part of the 3rd Avenue rezoning. The R7D with MIH allows for up to 5.6 FAR, and the R7A with MIH allows up to 4.6 FAR. And here are illustrative renderings that show the preliminary design of the project. And these are our illustrative massings that show the maximum size buildings that can now be constructed in the mid-block as of right. The R7A district with MIH sets a maximum base height of 75 feet, at which height a 15-foot setback is required from the narrow streets, and a maximum height of 95 feet or 9 stories. The development site can now be redeveloped with 4 new buildings. A 9-story building on Bergen Street would contain approximately 250 dwelling units, as well as ground floor retail and community facility uses. A smaller 9-story building on Wyckoff would have about 45 units, and there's 2 smaller townhouse buildings, about 3 to 5 stories, one on each side of the block's R6B district, that would have up to 3 to 5 units each. It's a second massing. So altogether, the development would have about 238,000 square feet of floor area, including about 5,000 square feet of commercial floor space and 5,000 square feet of community facility floor space, and 228,000 square feet of residential floor area. Per the community benefits agreement entered into for the approval of the rezoning, good faith efforts have to be made to lease the commercial space to a fresh food store and the community facility space to either an urgent care or doctor's office, senior services, a school, child care, or educational uses. The CBA also requires that in addition to the affordable housing required by MIH Option 1, 5 additional affordable housing units be provided at 80% AMI. As mentioned, Community Board 2 and Councilmember Ressler expressed concern that given the site's proximity to mass transit, the development should not need required parking, and we originally proposed 125 spaces. So in response, we applied for the special permit to waive the parking requirement, which is now before you. Without this waiver, the parking would be provided on the ground floor, including in a 1-story portion extending to the rear yard, which was in the image we showed your office last year, taking up approximately 18,000 square feet. As you can see here, if parking is removed, it is contemplated it would be replaced with an about 13,000 square foot rear yard garden for use by building residents, and about 5,000 square feet within the building would be reallocated to residential amenity and mechanical spaces. Further, during the rezoning process, Councilmember Ressler convened multiple meetings of community stakeholders, including members of Community Board 2, Wyckoff Gardens, and the president of the Borum Hill Association. And in response to comments from stakeholders to improve the development's relation to the surrounding low-rise buildings to the west, the applicant agreed to increased setbacks for the western edge of the proposed development, which was memorialized in the CBA. And I'll show you here, that's the image on the bottom, which shows the development setting back from the development site's western lot line above the 4th floor 20 feet at floors 5 to 7, and at floors 8 and 9 setting back an additional 10 feet for a total setback of 30 feet. Originally, 10 feet was proposed. In addition, this shows a portion of the development on Wyckoff with its core flipped to reduce the height in its western portion. Again, we're only before you tonight regarding the requested waiver of the site's parking requirement. that Community Board 2 and the council member requested, but I did want to show you the entire contemplated project again to your office so you could see the changes that occurred during the ULURP process last year. And thank you again. Good to be with you once more, and I welcome any questions.
Thank you. Would you please state for the record, what is the proposed affordability mix by income and unit mix? Has this unit mix and affordability changed in anticipation of the special permit to include more affordable units or deeper levels of affordability, or both?
So the unit mix and the affordable bands have not yet been formulated yet. The project hasn't been thoroughly designed, and that hasn't been set forth in a negotiated regulatory agreement with HPD yet. But the CBA, which called for the parking waiver, also called for the provision of affordable housing in excess of MIH option 1 through the provision of 5 additional units at 80% AMI.
And just to be clear, I believe you addressed this in your presentation, the anticipation of a special permit, that has not changed, or your application has not changed, what you just sort of described.
Correct. Correct.
Thank you. That'll be all.
All right. Thank you so much again.
So we will now call for testimony on this application from members of the public in attendance tonight. Please note that all comments are limited to 2 minutes. We do not see anyone here in the room, and I do not believe there's any other place where folks will be able to testify. So there is, seeing that no one wishes to testify, the item is now closed. And with the closing of the item, this ULURP public hearing is now closed. The Borough President will review this application and submit the Borough President's recommendations to the City Planning Commission, which will hold its hearing at a later date. As a reminder, viewers may submit comments to askReynoso@brooklynbp.nyc.gov for the Borough President's consideration until Tuesday, June 16, 2023. The meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.